Hello my friends and welcome to Book-O-Ween Day 1. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I feel like I have been waiting for this week, day, whatever you want to call it, for so long. If you don't know what Book-O-Ween is, I did it last year. I have a playlist on my channel if you want to watch them all, but basically I upload a book review every single day up until Halloween starting today. So this is day 1 and today we are talking about This Is Halloween by James A. Moore. This is an anthology and I figured the title screams Halloween and I thought what a perfect book to start Book-O-Ween on, and I'm very excited to talk to you guys about this. So the book reviews aren't going to be much different than usual. I'm going to give you guys a description, a plot synopsis, tell you guys my thoughts, and then I'm going to give you a rating. This year I'm using the ghost emoji. Last year I used the jack-o'-lantern emoji. So I will be ranking the books out of 5 ghost emojis this year. And yeah, that's pretty much how I do my book reviews all the time, except for the rating scale. I don't necessarily tell you guys what I rate it every single time when I do reviews, but for Book-O-Ween, I do. And yeah, so I guess let's go ahead and get started for Book-O-Ween Day 1. The cover is so cool. It's matte. I love the giant jack-o'-lantern. His face is very creepy. He looks a little rotten. He looks like he's caving in a bit. I don't know, I really like the colors. It's muted, but also very contrasting. I don't know. I think it's really pretty and it's a soft matte touch, which I love. So let's get into the synopsis. So this is an anthology of 10 short stories talking about different kinds of monsters. So I want you to keep that in mind as I go through the stories and see if you can figure out what kind of monsters we may be dealing with for each story. The first story is called The Dry Season, and this is about 2 women who take a group of children trick-or-treating, but they can't help but notice the abandoned house of a deceased murderer is now, once again, occupied. Harvest Moon is about Benjamin, who retires to Summitville, a peaceful little town that is exactly what he wants and is just perfect, until he learns of their weird obsession with scarecrows. Hathburn Avenue is about a group of trick-or-treaters who find themselves going up to a house that eerily resembles one that recently just burned down. Bone Harvest is about 2 botanists who enter Witch's Hollow, where many deadly plants live. However, the plants aren't what they need to keep their eye out for. Harvest Gods Revisited is about a young boy who is dissatisfied with how much time he gets to spend with his mom when he meets a strange man in the woods who is ready to make a deal with him. Patchwork is about several intertwining stories, including 2 milkmen who each have a dark secret, a group of vicious girls who are bullying the new girl at school, and a family that portrays themselves as perfect but isn't quite what it seems. Night Eyes is about a group of trick-or-treaters who decide to go into the woods despite the warnings from their parents, and then they encounter something a little less human. Blood Tide is about 2 men who are on drugs that decide to attack and attempt to rape and rob a woman, but they didn't expect to have anyone disrupt their plans. Shades of Grey is about a private investigator who gets involved in a string of murders that seem to be of supernatural nature. The Walker Place is about a group of friends who decide to sneak out at night and go up to an abandoned haunted house to encounter a ghost. However, they end up getting more than they bargained for. Okay, so that is a synopsis on each story. And now I'm going to move into my thoughts and tell you guys what I thought about this collection of short stories. So first, this is exactly what I want when I want a collection of Halloween spooky stories. This is exactly what I crave. When I think of a book that is claiming to have short stories about Halloween or just scary short stories, this is what I expect. This is what I'm after. This is the ideal book of short stories, in my opinion, for me. I haven't felt like this since last year's Book-O-Ween when I read Haunted Nights. I loved that collection of short stories, and I feel the exact same way about this collection. It's just exactly what I wanted from it. There is an introduction to this book which I found highly interesting because it stated that Moore really wanted to live in New England growing up because he felt like New England was where horror was at. It had such a large horror presence. I completely understand Moore's perspective in that thought because I feel the exact same way. I always felt like New England was just where it's at for fall and horror and spookiness and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's because that's how it's portrayed in like media, and the horror genre is mostly just there, I think. But for some reason, I just understood what was being said and I really connected with Moore on that level. And I feel like it really helped me understand the thought process of the stories. I don't know why, I just really liked that little aspect in the introduction. I don't know if this is going to make a lot of sense to people, but I'm going to say that when I was reading these stories, I pictured myself sitting by a window, leaves all over the ground, a chill in the air, and just the feeling of autumn and the feeling of Halloween. I just had this overwhelming urge to be in that place reading this book. It's almost like it gave me that feeling of sitting by the window with the leaves and the chill in the air, but through pages. So it made me feel like I should be sitting in that place while I'm reading it because I feel like I'm in that place. I don't know if that's going to make a lot of sense to anybody. If you understand, please let me know in the comments because I'm not sure if people are going to understand what I'm talking about. But it just gave me such a sense of fall. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the best way I can describe it. This book put me in the perfect Halloween mood. It's like this book just oozed Halloween goodness. Some of the stories didn't even specifically talk about Halloween, but it's just the feeling you got when reading them, especially all of them together. It just felt like Halloween. I don't know how else to say it because it sounds kind of ridiculous, but it just felt like Halloween. It felt like a Halloween hug. That's what it felt like reading these stories. Another thing I really liked about this is each story is very unique and I felt like it could hold its own, but they were all very cohesive, which is one of my biggest issues with collections of short stories. It's just that sometimes I feel like the cohesion isn't there, or they all feel like the same story, which depending on who you are, I'm sure that could be good or bad. For me personally, I want to feel like I'm reading individual stories, but I also want to feel cohesiveness and I want it to feel like the same book. Sometimes that just doesn't happen for me with short story collections, so I was very pleased to feel like these were very individual stories but also flowed nicely within one another. On top of the cohesion, a lot of the stories kind of tied in with one another, and I think that definitely helped with the cohesion of the book. Each story was different, but some of them would have similarities or there would be a connecting aspect of something. I don't want to give too much away, but they will be connected in some way when you're reading them, and I felt like that really helped with the overall cohesion because some of them could have been one story. If you meshed them together, I think it could have been a longer story, but they also worked individually, and I liked that a lot. I love that it dealt with supernatural elements, but it also included human monsters, which I think is definitely more terrifying and more scary in my opinion. When I think of horror, I think of the human monster, the evil of humanity. That is my favorite kind of horror. I do love supernatural things and the paranormal and things like that, but I just really like human evil. I think it makes the most sense. It's the most realistic in my opinion. So that's what I gravitate towards the most. So I did like that they were both supernatural elements, but also you had that evil human feeling. Honestly, as weird as it sounds, I felt myself siding with some of the supernatural characters more than the human characters, because I was more inclined to not like the human characters because you see them for what they truly are, and I honestly just preferred a lot of the supernatural characters in likability wise, just because I felt myself siding with them over the humans because I felt like the humans were more in the wrong a lot of the time. I just think some of the stories captured how evil humans are very well and showed that not all monsters are these inhuman type monsters. They are people walking by every single day, people you encounter, people living like we're living, and I find that to be exactly what I want from horror, because that's what I find to be horror. Just a trigger warning, some of the stories do include attempted rape, pedophilia, domestic violence, and mentions violence against children. The scenes aren't too graphic or too detailed, but it is mentioned and it is talked about, and I do want to give a trigger warning just in case those are, you know, sensitive topics for you. You might want to be mindful if you do decide to pick up this book, and just be careful with what triggers you and things like that. I was surprised by each story, and I felt like each of them kept me interested and intrigued, and I was just really surprised that I actually liked all of them, and I wasn't bored or getting irritated, or they didn't feel too redundant or anything like that. I was just very interested and engaged, and I just was really overall pleased with each story. My favorite stories were probably Harvest Moon, Patchwork, and Night Eyes. Those were the ones that stood out to me the most. They gripped me the most. They were the most intriguing, but overall I really enjoyed every single story, and I don't have any complaints about any of them, to be honest. This is a perfect read for getting you into the Halloween season, and for spooks and thrills and just the overall spooky feeling that you want during Halloween. So I am giving this book 5 ghosts out of 5. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I loved every second of it. There wasn't a time where I was wanting it to be over or wishing that this story was different in any way. I just really enjoyed every aspect of it, and I can tell that I will probably read this book every year in time for Halloween, just because it gave me the Halloween feeling that I wanted. It was everything I wanted from a short story collection about Halloween. It's everything I wanted. No complaints. Love it. I highly recommend if you're looking for something to get you into the Halloween festive mood. I think this is perfect, and I loved it. This is Halloween, James A. Moore, fantastic. I will definitely be checking out more of Moore's work, because I really enjoyed this book so much, so I want to read more from him. I just think that I'm really going to like more of his stuff. So overall, super excited with how Book-O-Ween is starting. This was a great book to start on. A 5 out of 5. That's amazing. So I'm so excited. I hope you guys are excited for the rest of Book-O-Ween as well. I have some fun books planned for us to talk about. I would love to know down in the comments if you have read This Is Halloween by James A. Moore. If you have, please let me know what you thought. I would love to discuss it with you if you have read it, or if you haven't, let me know if you're going to check it out. I would love to know that as well. Give me a thumbs up if you are excited for Book-O-Ween and what's in store. I am so excited to continue. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. I know it's only day 1, but I hope you are enjoying it. And feel free to subscribe if you want to see more Book-O-Ween from me. And with that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow for Book-O-Ween Day 2. Bye!